Okay, hi. My name is Mike Eline. I'm an attorney with the Circle of Legal Trust. My name is Mike Eline. I'm an attorney with the Circle of Legal Trust, and I'm just here today because it's the last day that you have to put public comments on the FCC website regarding the net neutrality laws. And this is a really big deal for people like like you and me if you have a website. Because we're in a really tough bind here. We have a situation where the major cable companies basically have, you know, paid off the president and all of his buddies to appoint Thomas Wheeler as the chair of the FCC. And Thomas Wheeler is a cable company lobbyist. In other words, he gets a lot of money from billionaires and goes to Congress and the Senate, and whatever party seems to be in power, he'll load them up with money so they can continue to run. And of course, as we all know, insider trading laws don't apply to, representatives, congressmen, president, and so on. So, they can tip off, politicians, and politicians can get really rich. For example, our own president, his wealth has increased over 438% since he was elected, while the average American's wealth has gone down by 40%. If they can even find a job, because most jobs are part-time thanks to the ACA. Because employers, when they start businesses, they don't get in business to be nannies, they get in business to try to make a living and support their families, and now they're being forced, if they have a large business, to pay for everyone's free this and that. So as a result, we basically have both parties, not just the existing party, but we have both political parties being sort of bought off by big corporations and lobbyists. But in this case, the party in power is unfortunately the one that is allowing this to happen. So what is net neutrality? Well, net neutrality is a situation where the government sort of agreed to take a hands-off approach when it came to the internet. So that means that everybody with a website would be treated neutrally. So if you have a really good website on Google, for example, it shows up as the #1 result because it's a good website, it has good content, maybe you have a lot of good user reviews about your business, about you, whatever the case may be. But with the elimination of net neutrality, that's going to go away. And the server speeds and even the ability to have your website served up can be decided upon based upon the cable or the internet service provider. In this case, Thomas Wheeler, who's the head of the FCC, is the one who wants to make it possible for internet service providers to charge a premium to make sure that whoever's paying them the most money gets, the results served up. And that sounds like, well, that sounds fair, right? I mean, after all, the internet service providers are the ones providing the service, so they should be able to decide, what gets served up. But the problem is the internet is the property of the people of this country. Our tax dollars already paid for it. It was a project sponsored by the United States military many, many years, many, many moons ago. And that's where it stands. We own it. It belongs to us. So what's going on is the ISPs that Thomas Wheeler really works for have gone ahead and decided they want to erect their own toll booth on the freeway that we built. And it's the first major step at the erosion of the internet as we know it. Now, the news media sort of, I'm just blown away at the way the news media is handling this. The news media has basically come out and said, oh, Obama is pro-net neutrality, our Messiah is pro-net neutrality, he's the man. And of course I was kind of scratching my head, right, because how could that be the case? Who appointed Thomas Wheeler as the head of the FCC? Well, the president appointed him. Well, how could that be? I mean, didn't he promise he would never appoint lobbyists? Well, actually, he's appointed more lobbyists than any president before him as heads of his departments and his cabinet and everywhere else. So, yeah, he may have promised that, but again, he is from Chicago, and that's just how they do business over there as far as politicians go. So nothing's changed. It's the same old nonsense, but it's on steroids now. Now, let me just give you a little bit of information about what's really going on here. All right. Comcast CEO Brian Roberts, a really good friend of Thomas Wheeler, is also a golf partner of President Obama. He's donated millions of dollars to different Democratic senators, actually thousands of dollars to different Democratic senators as well as the Obama campaign, but he's helped raise millions of dollars since 2007 for various Democratic causes. Now, I'm not trying to trash the Democratic Party because basically these guys raise money for whatever party's in power because that's how they are able to get their agenda through. You donate a bunch of money to a politician, and then he's got money so he can run for re-election. This is what I learned when I was doing cruise ship lobbying myself for victims. Of course, the difference was when I was lobbying, I was spending my own money, and I wasn't trying to get any monetary gain out of it. I was trying to help get a strengthened cruise ship passengers' Bill of Rights pushed through. And it was really amazing. When I would visit these congressmen and senators, having a background in sales, you learn how to read body language, and you learn you can just kind of smell the way a person's thinking just by the way they hold themselves out. And the body language that I got from almost every representative that I met with was, where's your checkbook? How much are you going to pay me to vote for this strengthened cruise ship passengers Bill of Rights? And it really was disheartening. And sure enough, there were a couple of Democrat congressmen who received large donations from the cruise ship industry, I think like 1 or 2 days before the vote, and of course the bill failed. So don't think that your political party is a messiah party or that they really are standing up for you. What's really going on here, so this whole net neutrality thing goes deeper. This is really about money. It's about if you can give enough money to a politician, irrespective of what party they belong to, you'll be able to get your agenda pushed through. But in this case, Thomas Wheeler, I mean, come on. The president can't come out and say that he's pro-net neutrality and then appoint a guy who is diametrically opposed to having a neutral internet as the head of the FCC who's going to regulate this. Now, the president also appointed these justices of the Court of Appeals for D.C., and these same, now we have justices ruling against the former head of the FCC who said that that Comcast had overstepped its bounds. So now we have the same Comcast CEO who's a golf partner of the president. He's been to the White House at least 14 times for private meetings since the president was elected. Just use common sense, guys. Stop being so partisan and start thinking with your heads. Stop being so emotional and start thinking like how our founding fathers thought. And that is, less government means more freedom. Less government means more freedom. The scariest words you ever want to hear as a true American is, I'm from the government and I'm here to help, because they're not here to help you. These people need to be controlled. These are money-hungry people who get guaranteed pensions for life. They can become lifetime politicians and get their children reelected based upon name recognition. So it's a very, very scary thing when we have such a powerful central government that can do so much damage to the rights, privileges, and immunities to common people like you and I. And so it's amazing that nobody is even attending this hangout today because it probably appears to be, some kind of partisan thing, and, most lawyers, unfortunately, are now progressives, whatever that means. And so if you say anything bad about Obama, automatically that means that, oh my God, you can't say anything bad about him, that might be racist or something, right? But, this is just reality. These are the facts. The facts stand or fall on their own merit. We have a guy right now who's the FCC head, who is an abomination to internet freedom. And when the president's friends in the news media, who basically just reprint anything the White House tells them to, and who are standing in line, all these journalists, hoping they can be his next press secretary. Look, the modern day press, the legacy news media, is the enemy of the American people. Make no mistake about it. We have a situation here right now, guys, where small law firms like mine and yours are going to get trashed by this anti-net neutrality law. It's the first step in the erosion of our freedoms. It's very similar to the gun laws, where, oh no, we don't want to take away your guns, but yet, they'll start restricting the magazine sizes. So you can only have, 10 rounds in your magazines, even though the criminals are going to have 50. Of course, we're not going to restrict how many rounds the police can have in their guns, right? Even though the police are going to be confronting the same criminals you would. So it's sort of this new class of super citizen that I call the government class. And we're all standing around arguing Republican, Democrat, progressive, libertarian, fighting amongst ourselves, while the government itself is creating a new class of super citizen where they're exempt from all the laws they pass pretty much that have any significance to them or their families. And we're the ones left footing the bill. Well, now guess what? All you progressive attorneys who love this guy so much, how are you going to pay your bills when nobody can find you online unless you're a multi-billionaire who can afford the first slot? Because that's what's going to happen right now. You're going to be in a situation where your website, the only one that's going to rank, is the one that has a ton of money. So if you've got a ton of money, you're good to go, because you'll always be number one, just like the old days when we had the yellow pages. I don't know if you remember that, but that's how the internet is going to become. It's going to become a yellow pages internet, where, if you want the front page, or actually the back page, the full page spread, you can pay $1 million a month. Comcast is going to love that. They'll go ahead and play golf with the next president and make sure that they can slowly erode the internet completely. Now, there's a battle between too much regulation and not enough regulation when it comes to the internet. I don't really call it regulation so much as protection when it comes to the internet. We definitely need the government to be involved in protecting the right of the people to have free access to the internet. So I don't really consider that to be regulation so much as protection. You have two sides of the coin. You have one side of the coin where the government completely controls the internet, and it becomes a public utility like a cable company, which the cable companies would love, or a phone company, which of course it's going to be run by federal, unions, Democrats, and so, we've already seen with the IRS and other government organizations that, if you believe in limited government, like the Tea Party, for example, they will definitely target you and do everything they can to chill speech, audit you, destroy all their records and say that they disappeared when they get caught, use their friends in the news media to say, hey, we targeted progressive organizations too. Yeah, and they may have targeted one or two, but like 90% of them were libertarian-leaning organizations. So we can see that's one side of the coin, where you have the government controlling the internet, and of course government employees don't vote conservative, they vote Democrat, and they donate their money to the Democrat Party. So you have the public employee unions who run our taxpayer-funded organizations who believe that they're entitled to control us, which is really bad, and which is our founding fathers would have never agreed with. And then you have the other side of the coin, where you have no regulation, basically, where big companies like Comcast, who are also just donate tons of money, just like the public employee unions would, to the party that's in power in order to maintain their control and domination over the internet. And what we really need is a neutral internet where neither one of those things can take place. And that's pretty much what we have right now. And that's what we need to have stay in place in order for us to be able to maintain our internet presence and be successful online. So the first thing I want all of you people to understand is this really isn't intended to be a partisan hangout. It's more intended to be like, wake up, people. You know, these politicians are scumbags on both sides of the aisle. So stop having so much blind faith and start using your brains. Stop listening to what your college professor told you. Stop listening to what other people say in the news media and start doing research on your own, and you're going to find out that this is the case. And you're going to find that this is what the battle was about with our founding fathers. They realized that too much government and too much power would lead to this. And that's why they wrote Article 1, Section 8 into the Constitution, which severely limited how much power the central government could have. Unfortunately, politicians are able to appoint judges, and judges are, unfortunately, extremely partisan, especially nowadays, and they have eroded Article 1, Section 8 to the point where it really doesn't even exist. I mean, central government is so powerful they can pretty much do anything. As long as you can donate money to your president or your congressman, you can get legislation passed that absolutely goes against everything our founding fathers stood for, especially when it comes to things like the right of self-defense and things like that. You know, they've sort of framed it as a debate against, you know, oh my God, we have to restrict firearms because otherwise people are going to get killed, as opposed to restricting people, you know, who are lunatics who use the firearms in a bad way, for example. What we have here is just a continuation of that. We have just overreaching government stripping us of our rights, privileges, and immunities that are guaranteed to us by our birthright. This is a very devastating situation, guys, and I'm actually kind of shocked that I don't have every attorney in the United States right now on this Hangout. You have until the end of the day today, as far as I know, to post a comment on the FCC website expressing your disdain for this proposed regulation. But beyond doing that, what I'd really like to see you people do is contact your congressmen and senators and tell them that you're holding them personally accountable for allowing Thomas Wheeler to even be appointed the head of the FCC. I mean, were these guys smoking crack when they let him become the FCC chair? I mean, look, I realize that most congressmen and senators probably were attorneys, and a lot of them needed a website in order to feed their family, in order to be found online. But guess what? Now that they're congressmen and senators, it appears as though they could care less. And that's the big problem that I have with government in general. Now they have guaranteed everything. They're not subject to our laws that they force upon us, a lot of them anyways. And so why do they care? Well, why should they care? Because you can vote them out of office. But first you have to be educated. And unfortunately, I have one viewer who really wants to be educated on this Hangout. You guys need to get educated. You need to contact these people and say, look, enough is enough. Why did you allow this guy to get appointed? Because what they're going to do is say, oh, we have nothing to do with his decision. Just like the media is saying, oh, Obama's pro-net neutrality. Oh, really? Okay, sure he is. He's pro whoever's paying the most money, guys. Sorry to break it to you. Okay? And I'm glad he's black, and I'm glad he got elected, because that proves we're not racist or whatever. But you know, I don't think it's racist to point out the fact that he's basically, you know, going for the highest bidder and appointing people into cabinet level and administrative positions who are diametrically opposed to his publicly stated positions. Because I don't really believe he has any publicly stated positions that he really believes in. I believe it's the almighty dollar. And that's what we see happening here. So when the press says, oh, it's just Thomas Wheeler, it has nothing to do with the president, president appointed him, congressmen and senators went ahead and ratified him. You need to be contacting these representatives. There's midterms coming up. You need to let these people know and put political pressure today, right now. If this thing gets passed, this will be the beginning of the end of the internet as you and I know it. The chilling of speech, the ability to express, the ability to be creative, to even be found online will be severely diminished. If you're a startup company or a startup law firm, you'll probably never be found. When I was starting out, you know, I learned optimization and SEO and started to be found online, and I was thrilled. You know, organic search. That's not going to happen anymore. That's going to go away. And so the door behind me will be closed for new attorneys and other people who want to break out. And remember, our forefathers already paid for the internet. It belongs to us, not to Comcast, not to President Obama, not to any of his minions who give him money or play golf with. It belongs to us. But when we sit by and just let it happen and let him take it from us, it's our own fault. So stop being so partisan, everybody, and start being American. Stop supporting people just because they have a D or an R in front of their name, and start voting for liberty and freedom. Understand that less government means more freedom. Nothing is free. When someone promises you something free from someone else's paycheck, it's not free. And calling someone greedy who wants to keep what really belongs to them is disingenuous. It belongs to them. It's theirs. They should be able to have a say in how that money is spent. And in this case, I have a say. I created the internet with my money and my tax dollars. And I don't want someone like Thomas Wheeler to come and take it away from me. So I'm just going to go over here and see if we have any questions. And if not, I'll just go ahead and close down this Hangout, and I'll embed it into the the blog post that I did. Now, if you go to circleoflegaltrust.com, you'll see that I have a post that I did yesterday about the anti-net neutrality regulations being proposed by Obama's right-hand man, Thomas Wheeler. What you guys need to do is you need to go to that blog post, give it a nice plus, get it shared, get it hot on Google+. Let people know what's going on. Get out there, especially if you're an attorney, and comment on this, because the Democrat Party relies on especially personal injury attorneys. I mean, I'm probably the only personal injury attorney you'll ever meet who's not what they call a progressive. I'm a libertarian, if anything, and so that makes me a little bit different. But most of these guys are 100% lock, stock, and barrel supporters of the president. Now, I don't know how any of these guys could support him at all after knowing more about what's going to happen to their business. How are they going to be able to donate money to the president when they don't have any more internet presence? And do they really want to spend their entire profits of the year advertising just so they can maintain sort of a presence online? Good luck. So I really, really encourage all of you to use your brains, stop being partisan, and fight this anti-net neutrality law in a way that puts the politicians who appointed this guy as FCC chair on the hot seat. You guys need to put pressure on these guys. You need to protect your rights, privileges, and immunities as law-abiding citizens. Don't let this happen, guys. If you can make enough hay about this, you can put pressure on the president to tell his man, Thomas Wheeler, to back off. There's midterms coming up. If the president wants to keep using his pen and his phone to pass executive orders and circumvent Congress, that's fine. But I'm pretty sure he'd rather have Democrats in Congress, so it can appear as though he has support from the other branches of government. After all, it is a tripartite system, much to his chagrin. We do have a legislative and a judicial branch, appointed by the people. And so if you can put pressure on these people, let them know we're not going to support you, then, who knows? Maybe they can put enough heat on him to tell his buddy and his golfing pals to lay off on this anti-net neutrality stuff. So if there's any questions or whatever, I'm looking here. I don't see anything, which makes a lot of sense because, it's not about a free welfare check or, free abortion pills or something that really matters to most people. But to you people with businesses, it should. And so let me see here. I have a comment from Richard. Risk it says here, okay, you're right. This is not a right versus left issue. I voted for Obama, but I'm very upset about this. Okay, Richard, well, that's phenomenal that you're upset, but, you know, I'm upset too, and I certainly didn't vote for him, but for reasons different than you. I mean, as a personal injury attorney, you'd think I would always support Democrats, right? But no, because I have other things that I also believe in that I think are diametrically opposed to their policies, so I just couldn't justify it. But most of my friends are Democrats, almost all of them, and I don't hold it against them, and I know a lot of them hold it against me because it's a politically charged environment. But hopefully, most of you people who know me know that I'm about America first, and I totally am stoked that you have different beliefs than me, because if we all start thinking the same, then we become like the Nazi Empire. We don't want that. I don't want that. So I really like real diversity, which means having different political beliefs, even if they're unpopular. I think that's really important for a constitutional republic to survive. And in this case, this is definitely not a left versus right issue. But Richard, you have got to get on the phone with your representative today and encourage your friends to watch this video and read that article on Circle of Legal Trust. Vote it up, get it exposure, because we have got to find a way to end this. Because look, the overreach is so great by this administration that it's highly likely that a Republican is going to get elected in the next election, and they're definitely going to take the Congress and the Senate, in the midterms, the House and the Senate. There's just no way around it because the American people are ticked off for a lot of different reasons. And we're going to be right back in the same situation. You're going to see Mike Eline complaining about Chris Christie or Mitt Romney doing the same nonsense. Because that's the difference between me and a partisan, is that I hate both parties. I think they're both just bad for the country. I think the two-party system leaves us both fighting over table scraps while the Federal Reserve Bank and all their buddies make billions off of us, create worthless paper, loan money to their buddies, and all this other stuff. So you're going to have the same problem, the same exact problem that exists right now, but under a different party name. And so what we have to do is we have to demand that representatives that we send to D.C. strip themselves of power. We have to demand that they pass legislation that forces them to only serve 2 terms, just like George Washington set the tone for. No more lifetime politicians. We have to demand that the government respect private property rights. We have to demand that judges stop interpreting things like the right to keep and bear arms and look at the actual history behind it. I mean, remember, King George tried to seize the powder houses. He tried to strip the colonists of their arms because he wanted to create an all-powerful government and give the people no way to resist. Our founding fathers even wrote into the Constitution that we will have no standing army at all. It's prohibited by the Constitution to have a standing army. So when I hear people say that, oh, well, it's only the militia that's supposed to have arms and all this. Well, if you read, what the militia is, under common law, it's everybody. All males 16 and older are militia. There's ordinary and there's regular. There's regular and irregular militia. So it's a common law right to keep and bear arms. So we have these judges who are sort of interpreting the Constitution to mean what they want it to mean. They're politically appointed. We need to appoint representatives who force the judges they appoint to actually look at what the Constitution says. If the First Amendment says something, or the Fourth Amendment says that we have a right to our papers and personal effects, then why is it that we just had to have a Supreme Court decision decide that the police couldn't take our cell phones and take information from them without a warrant? How could that have even happened? How is it that we have politicians and lawmakers who even let it get that far? That's the point that I'm trying to make. Regardless of your political position, we shouldn't have lawmakers trying to interpret what the Constitution says. The Constitution is there for everyone to read. It's very clear. Shall not be infringed means something. It doesn't mean militia in the sense that it means National Guard or Army, because the Constitution prohibited that to begin with, because we didn't want to have what King George had. So If you guys want to change things and you want to amend the Constitution, that's fine. Let's get an amendment. But stop appointing lawmakers, stop voting for people who just circumvent what the law is and make it mean what they want it to mean. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. Uh, and I just use Second Amendment because that's the easiest thing for me to think of right now. So there you go, guys. You know, you've got it right there in front of you. You know what to do. Get out there, get active, and let people know that you're not going to support them just because they have a D or an R in front of their name. You're going to support them based upon their proven track records. If they screw up, you're going to impeach them. You're going to try to get them out of office. Now, right now, we need to get Thomas Wheeler out of the FCC. He's got to go. Now, this is something that is totally nonpartisan. Progressives and conservatives should both be supporting this concept of having him removed. So I encourage everyone to start calling their state representatives, their federal representatives, as well as the White House and the FCC, and not only demand that this anti-net neutrality legislation not go through, but also demand that Thomas Wheeler be removed, because he's clearly a partisan lobbyist who clearly is just a political donor who got appointed because he gave millions of dollars to Democratic Party causes. Now, guess what? When a Republican gets elected, he's going to do the same thing for the Republicans. So I have a hard time believing that, you know, Comcast and all these guys are big-time Democrat liberals. No, they're just giving money to whoever's going to support them. And so I want you guys to remember that they don't care about your political views. All they care about is their money. And I think it's great to make money. I'm a big-time free market guy. But guess what, guys? That's not free market. Buying off politicians isn't free market. Corruption isn't free market. So I want all of you guys to please, you know, look at this as a nonpartisan thing, irrespective of whether or not you support the Second Amendment or not. That may have been a bad comparison. A lot of you guys are terrified of guns, so whatever. But just keep in mind that not having an internet presence, which is where this is leading, unless you're a billionaire and can afford it, is going to be devastating to all of us. And of course, a buddy of mine, William Rock, was saying the other day, you know, what I do is I look at what Google supports, and that's usually something I'm not going to support. You know, I kind of thought that was funny, but of course Google supports the anti-net neutrality regulations. I think most people who want to have more control over the internet, who are in a position of power, would support these regulations. So that's another way to look at it. It's the way I'd like you guys to look at it. I don't see any more comments. I'm going to look one more time, and then we're going to get out of this. Just take one more look here. Yeah, I see that. Okay, I got a comment from Richard. It's about liberty. Amen. It's 100% about liberty. It's nothing to do with politics. Now, you know, Richard, you say it's not the president, it's the system. Well, you know, I disagree because, you know, the president said when he first got elected that he wanted to change the system and make it better, but he hasn't. He's made it worse. I mean, you know, if you say anything bad about him, you're called a racist or a bigot or something. If you question any of his policies, which I think is just caustic, I think he set back race relations in this country by probably hundreds of years. So I think that, you know, this whole, I think that's just terrible what's happened, and he's been able to mask his support for the 1% that the progressives like to call them by hiding behind this argument of that it's about race. I'm in an interracial marriage myself. A lot of my friends from the Marine Corps are black. You know, it's not about race, guys. This is, you know, and it is about the president because he's allowing this to happen, and he's hiding behind things like saying it's because I'm black kind of a thing in order to deflect what's really going on. And that really, really ticks me off because, you know, it's taken hundreds of years for us to slowly start to heal the wounds of slavery in this country. And, you know, I just really, it's a turnoff to hear Eric Holder get out there and say this is about race when he's found in contempt of Congress after he's hidden documents after the IRS loses years of emails back and forth from the White House, after they said it was just a few employees in Cincinnati. I mean, this could go on and on. I could talk about this with you forever. But it is, at the end of the day, about liberty, Richard. It is about liberty. But how can we have liberty when we keep supporting politicians who say one thing and do another? Well, because we have to be educated and we have to be vigilant. I believe it was Thomas Jefferson who said that the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. Well, right now we just have people being told what to think by watching CNN or C-SPAN or MSNBC by these left-wing journalists. They're told what to think, and they just think it because some journalist said so, or they read it in an LA Times piece or New York Times, and that's what I think because some journalist who went to some left-wing journalist school told me what to think. Well, that's not how it should be. You guys should do what I did. Get on Google and start doing some research and follow the money, because you're going to understand that your political views have very little to do with how these people vote. It's based on who's paying them the most money. And you know what? No matter how much money these people get, if you don't vote for them, they're not going to get elected. A prime example, again, is this cruise ship legislation that I supported that would protect passengers on foreign flag ships who are United States citizens. Remember, it was shot down by Democrats who got money from cruise ship lobbyists. It's like 2 votes short because they just gotten paid a bunch of money the day before the vote. So, it has nothing to do with the party. That's just all a smokescreen. Sure, they'll vote for a couple things that you support every now and then, but behind the scenes, they add all these riders onto the bills, to build a library in their town or to do something for some big company. Dianne Feinstein is a prime example. Her husband's getting all the contracts to buy all of the U.S. post offices that are shutting down in California. Billion-dollar contracts. And of course, insider trading laws don't apply to her. And of course, she can use her name recognition to keep getting elected. And the people who vote for her just vote for her based upon her name and the fact that she's willing to give people free welfare checks if they vote Democrat. That's got to stop, man. Guys like you and me pay for that, Richard. It's coming out of our paycheck to pay for all this free stuff. I don't have a problem helping people who are needy, but this is just out of control. So, like you say, it is about liberty, but liberty also means respecting property rights. And the internet belongs to you and me. That's our property. We collectively own it, but it's not like a freeway where it requires, maintenance and road crews and to be heavily taxed and all that in order to maintain it. It's the internet. And in this case, again, we're allowing Comcast and Thomas Wheeler and all of his buddies to have their own private toll booth on our freeway. And that should be disheartening to you. And so, Richard, when you say it's not the president, well, that's what all of his friends in the news media say. Ask yourself this question. How did Thomas Wheeler get appointed head of the FCC? If the president really cared about you and me and our businesses, why did Thomas Wheeler get appointed? How is it that his wealth has increased over 438% since he was elected president, while everyone else in this country pretty much, unless you're a PI attorney, has decreased by 40%? Sure, we can try and blame Bush, but is it Bush's fault that Obama's wealth has increased by 438%? I don't think so. Okay, I mean, give him credit then. Oh, it must be Bush, the reason why Obama's gotten rich off of, all of his buddies at Comcast. It must be Bush's fault that there's a $40 million home in Hawaii that he didn't have prior to becoming president. So these are things I just would like you guys all to think about. And again, I'll say the same thing about the next Republican when he gets elected. So this isn't me just trying to bash the Democrat Party. But come on, this is crazy, guys. Now it's our ability to make money online and be able to feed our family right now, today. This Thomas Wheeler is going to pass something that's not subject to legislative review. It's an administrative agency, and that's another thing we need to look at. Administrative agencies. How is it that we can use administrative agencies to circumvent the sovereign will of the people by writing into legislation things that weren't there? For example, Kathleen Sebelius In order to get the ACA, Obamacare, passed, it was promised that there would be no free abortion pills or anything like that, because otherwise the Democrats who supported the bill couldn't vote for it because their constituents wouldn't support it. So Kathleen Sebelius has it written into the regulations that free abortion pills will be provided once it's been passed into law as an FCC, not an FCC, but as an administrative decision. So administrative agencies are able to just write their own laws and circumvent Congress completely. And Congress can go, I had nothing to do with it. It was the administrative agency that did it. So we have to also look at administrative agencies, look at eliminating administrative agencies and returning the lawmaking process and the rule-making process back to our elected representatives. To me, it's unconstitutional that we have administrative agencies actually writing the law. That's absurd. They call it regulations. Oh, we got to write the regulations, but it's the law. They'll take the ACA and write things into it that could have never passed, ever. Of course, we have the Supreme Court striking back and saying, oh no, the president's overseeded his bounds with these executive orders, and the FCC's exceeded its bounds. But guess what? Politicians appoint judges too. And once they have one more judge on the Supreme Court, you can kiss the Second Amendment goodbye, and you can also, I can guarantee you that these administrative agencies are going to have free reign, and there won't even be a need for a third branch of government. The legislative branch will basically just be a puppet to the White House's whims, because the federal administrative agencies have basically taken the rulemaking and the lawmaking processes away from our elected representatives. Now, a lot of people say, hey, that's great because now we have our man in office. Obama needs to use his pen and his phone more because now our man's in power. But guess what? He's not always going to be in power. Eventually, it's going to be a guy on the right that's in power. So people need to stop thinking that way. Oh, now my man's in power, so balls to the walls. Let's do whatever we want and ignore the Constitution, ignore the intent of what our founders wanted for this country, which was an incredibly weak central government. Incredibly weak central government is what our founders wanted for this country. So keep that in mind as you move forward today. And let's try to find a way to stop this from happening, guys. And this is just devastating to me. What's even more shocking to me is that not every attorney who has a website isn't in this hangout right now, because it's absolutely devastating what's going on. I'm just looking to see if there's any more questions or comments. Doesn't look like there is. Let me just go over here really quick and look in the hangout. Okay, so I see Andre's in here. I don't know if there's any sound, but Andre, do you have any comments or anything you want to add before I end this hangout? Okay, Andre's got no mic. Now, Andre's in a different country, but most of his clients are American lawyers, so he's going to be affected too. It's going to affect the whole economy, because now instead of Andre being able to make a living by helping us, now you and I are going to be going to Comcast, begging them to allow our websites to rank. Comcast, the lobbyist for Comcast, he's now the head of the FCC, Obama's golf buddy, that guy. So, think about that, because you're going to be kicking yourself, guys and girls, if you guys don't get on the FCC website right now, make public comments, contact your representatives, and demand that Thomas Wheeler be removed, and question them, how is it that a cable company 1%er lobbyist got appointed as chair of the FCC? I mean, how did that happen? Ask them. How could you have let that happen? Just ask yourself these questions. It just blows my mind that attorneys, with your analytical minds and your ability to do research and understand the rules of evidence and understand all this stuff, aren't just outraged. Don't let your man get away with it just because he's your man. That's the point that I'm trying to make. Don't let it happen, guys. So Andre, unless you've got anything that you want to add here, I'll look for your side typing. If not, I'll just let it go and I'll just end this. All right. Well, that's going to end this wonderful conversation that I had with myself today. Maybe the next hangout we'll talk about free stuff or something, and I'll get more people that want to join in the conversation. So have a terrific weekend, and hopefully your website will still rank. God bless and Semper Fi. Talk to you guys soon.